Hello there. It is 11:04 p.m. August 11th. This is my Spyderco Stretch 2 in V-Toku2. If you can see that. Yeah, it's all scratched to shit. I explained that on my last video, I think. I'm going to show a little something though before I do the review. Something I might not be able to show later because I might be selling it to a homie if I can find what I originally wanted. Right now it's in my Taurus G2C holster. I ordered a new holster for this specifically. It is a Glock 43. Just the regular one, not the X. And yes, it is hot right now, in case you're wondering. Has an FMJ right there for the top round, and then it has for the rest of the mag. I don't know exactly what it is. It says FC. I think it's a Federal hollow point. Not sure exactly, just 9mm. I think it's a 115 grain. That's what's in the chamber, the hollow point, and then it just has one FMJ. But yeah, I originally wanted a Glock 26, but I couldn't find it. So I just bought this instead. I said, fuck it. It was about $450. So if I can find a Glock 26, I think they're about $530, maybe $550 online, but I think in the store it might be the same price. So if I can find one of those in a store online, I'm gonna try to get one of those and then just sell this to the homie. Maybe hook him up like a, $100 off or whatever the fuck. Just give him a little discount. So yeah, I just wanted to show that. All right. So this is my Stretch 2, V-Toku2. Overall, 8.1/16 of an inch. I'm getting these specs from Blade HQ again. That's where I usually just look up the specs if I don't know exactly. So about 8.25 inches long. Blade length is about 3.5 inches. It says 3.45 inches. The handle is 4.71 inches. The handle thickness, I'm not sure the thickness of it. It's about as thick as the Police 4. The blade thickness is 0.12 inches, so 0.12 inches. And because it's a Sanmai blade steel, it's like sandwiched together, two different steels it has. I don't know if you can see it because of the fucking light that I have shining on it right now, but if you can see, there's just a dark line running through the whole spine. If I close it, you can see it easier. There's a dark line that runs all the way up to the fucking tip of the blade. I think that's kind of like, not rusting or anything like that, but just like the way it patinas kind of, I think. I think it's a type of patina. I'm assuming when it's brand new, it doesn't look like that, and then over time it might form that. I don't know. I didn't get this. I got it used. I'm gonna explain that. But yeah, the weight is 3.7 ounces. It's not a heavy knife. I mean, it's a lightweight. So yeah, it's pretty light for its size. I got this like February this year, towards the end of February, beginning of March this year, 2022. I got it like on the Spyderco Facebook forums and shit on Facebook. Bought it from some dude for $120, shipping including and everything included. And when I looked these up on Blade HQ, in the original price when these came out, I'm assuming it was like 97, a little under $100. So I paid a little over, but it's a sprint run. And from what I'm assuming, I think it came out like 2019, beginning of 2019. because that's the date I see, you know, some of the comments and reviews and shit people left on the website on Blade HQ. So it's about maybe like 3 years old, you know, a 3-year-old knife. I don't know if he got it when it first came out and then just saved it. I'm assuming he did, but yeah. So paying a little extra, I would say, you know, it isn't that bad. And even if it was $120 just buying the knife, you know, myself, I would say it's worth that much. It's a nice overall knife, you know, the model, the stretch too, and the blade steel too. So he said that he, you know, opened and closed it, just you know, looking at the knife, fucking around with it. But the edge, it was, you know, I've bought enough Spydercos to know a factory edge. It had the factory edge on there. It was razor sharp, but it had that right there, if you can see that. It had like snail trails and shit, and it didn't have this many scratches on the blade, but the blade, you know, the SUS410, it gets scratched easily, so it did have some scratches along the outside, you know, outer steel right here. But I used this knife a lot within the past couple weeks, just cutting up a shit ton of cardboard just to see, you know, how much of edge retention this has, to see if it's like, I don't know, K390 or something like that, because I have a K390 Spyderco, if you didn't already see this on my other videos. But yeah, I wanted to know exactly what the edge retention was, and this shit, I would say, has pretty crazy edge retention. I would say if I had to compare it to my other Spydercos, I haven't had a ZDP 189, but in the reviews online, someone was comparing this to a ZDP 189. So maybe just like it's like a cheaper ZDP 189, because they have the same knife, the Stretch 2 and ZDP 189, and it's like shit, maybe like 150. It's not as cheap as this one when it came out. It was, you know, 97, $100. So yeah, it's kind of like maybe a less, you know, a cheaper ZDP 189, but I put it to the test and cut up a shit ton of cardboard, and I would say it has maybe like 3 or like 4 times the edge retention that like VG10 would have, because I have this blade, the same knife, the Police 4 in a VG10, and cut up a shit ton of cardboard, and it lasts for a while, but not, you know, not as long as K390, obviously, or even this one, the V-Toku2. So yeah, I would say it has, you know, and VG10 is like similar to OS10. I've used OS10 a lot to cut up a bunch of shit. So yeah, I would say it maybe 3 to 4 times the edge retention of VG10 or OS10. So it has pretty good edge retention. And the ergonomics on here, I love how it has the finger choil, kind of like my Police 4. It doesn't have as big as of a handle as, you know, the Police 4, but you can choke up like that, just like, you know, the Police 4 right here. And the little thumb ramp is, you know, comfortable on this one, but how it curves, you know, on the spine. I think this is the original Stretch 2 blade style, how it's curved like that, because they have the same knife and then an XL version that has a straight spine. It's the straight spine Stretch, but this one, I can imagine it would be more comfortable than the straight spine. I haven't had the straight spine one, but just the way your thumb kind of sinks in right there, you could just really fucking choke up on it. And I was cutting it like that when I was cutting through cardboard, and yeah, your thumb kind of gets in the way if you're really choked all the way the fuck up right here, but you can kind of use, you know, just the tip. That's what she said, you know. And you can pass through cardboard, just cut using the tip of the blade, and your thumb won't get in the way. Or you can kind of choke, you know, have the same grip, but just put your thumb a little bit farther down. That way you can use, you know, maybe half of the cutting edge and get through a bunch of shit. But you can kind of cut through cardboard and shit really good, just like that too. Just, it's not gonna, you know, your thumb's gonna get in the way a little bit. It's not gonna cut clean through and fucking have a smooth cut. But yeah, you can still use it like that. Or maybe if you're like whittling or some shit, using it like an outdoors blade or something like that, or a camping knife, I don't know, feathering a fucking stick or something like that. Yeah. So it has really good ergonomics, different grips and shit, you know, holding it like that. reverse grip is really comfortable if you had to stab something. I'm gonna fucking get into that later. Let's do a little blade comparison. The texture and shit is just standard, you know, FRN, the volcano kind of bi-directional pattern. Yeah, the same as my Police 4. We do a blade comparison. Smaller than the Police 4. The blade length about 1.5 inches shorter, and the handle maybe about 1 inch or half inch shorter on the blade, half inch shorter on the handle. Yeah, this is overall 8 inches. This is like a 10-inch, little under 10 inches. And got my link. If you watched my review on this, you would probably think I was like shitting on the knife, but I love the knife overall, like the model, the link, and then just the ergonomics. It's really comfortable. The aluminum, the way it feels, this shit just gets me off. No homo. I love aluminum, you know, for handle material on knives and shit. On my CRKTs, and yeah, then just the blade style is really nice too. Really pointy and stabby and shit, but just the 20 CV from Kershaw, I just wasn't crazy about it. For me, you know, it's just not a good steel. Compared to something like this, a fucking Victorinox steel, yeah, it's a good steel, but, you know, compared to like K390 or something, nah. I would say it's not. And just the, you know, knowing what 20 CV is, even though, yeah, Kershaw treats it a little softer, I thought it would be, you know, up on the fucking Spyderco and, you know, cold steel 20 CV level, but no. It wasn't what I was expecting. So yeah, it's about the same size, almost a little longer on the handle, a little longer on the blade too than the link, but pretty comparable. Here's a cold steel Tau War XL. Because yeah, I think they've had a smaller version, like a medium or a large version of that back in the day. Cold steel SR1. Both of these are bigger than the stretch. And for the fuck of it, my squiddy. Not a knife, but I mean, knife related. Yeah, the squiddy just is longer than that. Same size as the Police 4 pretty much. And my boot knife. Boot knife is bigger than that too. It's kind of a small knife, you know, overall, but for a Spyderco it's maybe medium size. Not that small. Spydercos get really fucking small. And there you go. That Victorinox Deluxe Tinker. I always show that shit. So yeah, this is pretty much just an EDC knife. That's the main, you know, role I would use it for. Kind of maybe you can use it like a gentleman's knife, kind of. It's not all scratched to shit like that. I mean, some people might not give a fuck. I really don't give a fuck. The only other knife or Spyderco that I have that has this, you know, it has a different core steel. It's half 40, but it has the same outer steel, the SUS410. And it's my Police 4. It's the same knife like this, you know, the same size, but it's a Knife Center exclusive. It has pack of wood scales. And it has a HAP 40 steel with SUS410. And it was pretty expensive for me. I think it's my most expensive Spyderco. It was like $220, almost $230. And that's pretty much been my safe queen. I haven't used that shit at all. I've just sliced through a couple pieces of paper with it, and even doing that, slicing through some paper, is put a little bit of scratches on it, but it looks pretty much brand new. It looks nothing compared to that. This shit just looks like you got a fucking steel scrubby and just scrub the fucking shit out of it, or a sponge or something like that, or, you know, like a fucking Brillo pad. Yeah. Right there, it really has a lot of fucking scratches right there from me cutting through a fuck ton of cardboard. So yeah, you can use it like an EDC knife. If you had to use it for self-defense, I mean, shit, you could use any knife for self-defense, but I honestly wouldn't use it for a self-defense knife because of what I'm gonna get into. When I was cutting through a fuck ton of cardboard, I was just like, fuck it, let me see how much cardboard I can stab through. And I like cut some, strips of cardboard, little rectangles. I cut off the little flaps off these boxes and stacked them all up. Maybe 8, 10 pieces of cardboard. I just stacked them up and tried to like hold them down flat so they were like flush and shit together. And I just stabbed the fuck out of it, and the tip of it, it just pierced through the cardboard and stabbed through it in one motion. It just fucking buried the knife all the way up into the, the fucking ricasso, whatever, the tang of the blade. It stabbed through the whole stack of cardboard, and I did that a couple times, and I was like, oh shit, that's pretty nice, I wouldn't mind stabbing some shit with this if I had to. And then I was closing the knife, like fucking around with it, looking at it. And when I got the knife, it was perfectly centered. It wasn't all the way to the left or to the right. And right now you can see it's centered because I fixed it. But when it was brand new, it was perfectly centered. And then when I closed it and looked at it, the blade was just like that. It was just hugging the right side of the handle all the way up there like that. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, that's not right. The blade was perfectly centered last time I fucking checked. And then I was like, holy shit, I feared what did happen. And I was like, oh, I hope I didn't bend the fucking knife stabbing it and shit when it was open. And I looked at it like that. I lined it up, and the blade right now, it's almost perfectly, straight. I fixed it and shit, but it was bent. I think, yeah, it was, because if it was to the right when it was closed, it was bent to the fucking left. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, oh no, I fucked up the knife. And seeing the edge retention, I was assuming that this is some strong shit, the steel wouldn't bend or anything like that. But if you had to choose, you would rather have your knife bend than break, than snap in half. But I didn't expect it to bend at all. So I was like, fuck, let me see if I could bend it back. And I think I went like that, or I just fucking bent it, and I was able to straighten it out. And then I was just like, I didn't think this steel would be that, kind of soft with, bending and shit. I think it would be that, like malleable. And I was like, let me see exactly how easy it can fucking bend. So, bending a knife, like holding in the handle and going like that, it's, it could be easy to bend a fucking knife, but I legit held it like right here, and then held it right here and bent it back into place. And I straightened it out, and then just to test it out again to see how easy it would bend, I bent it to the right, and I noticed it fucking bent from, being straight. It bent to the right, and then I went like that again, and then bent it back to the left to straighten it out. And I was like, holy shit, I don't want to bend it right now. Obviously, I don't want to fuck it up because I fixed it, but it bent from me just holding it right here and right here. And if you can imagine doing that, a blade would have to be, the blade steel would have to be somewhat soft for you to do that, instead of going like this and fucking bending it at the pivot. So yeah, I was holding onto the blade and then held onto another piece of the blade and was able to fucking bend it. So, and it, when I got it, it was in perfect condition, brand new. I'm assuming the dude didn't fucking bend the blade and bend it back into place, before selling it to me. So I was just really surprised. I was kind of a little disappointed at the overall strength of the knife. I'm assuming fucking K390, it wouldn't fucking do anything like that if I had to fucking bend the steel or stab into a bunch of boxes. I'm assuming it would. I'm actually going to try that now, but I wouldn't think the steel would fucking bend at all. So, seeing the edge retention, it's not the same as K390. I'm going to be making a video on this shit soon, but yeah, it's not the same as K390, but seeing how good the edge retention is, I thought it would be really strong shit when it comes to stabbing into something or having the, pressure on the blade like that. But yeah, it, I don't know if it's just mine, if I got a bad batch of steel, like I always say, or if I got a fucking lemon or some shit, but obviously the edge retention, it isn't shitty at all. So that just really surprised me. So yeah, if you have a V-Toku2 Spyderco, I recommend you don't stab into anything or put a lot of pressure on the blade, whatever the fuck. If you're doing some sort of cutting like that, you know, heavy cutting, or just, yeah, if you're stabbing into something, I would just be careful with your blade or your steel bending. Yeah, because it definitely bent. I seen it with my own fucking eyes how it changed the centering just from stabbing into some cardboard and shit. So yeah, that's what I was gonna say. If you had to use this for self-defense, I would choose something else just because of that, how the steel could possibly bend. But the overall design, the stretch too, yeah, it wouldn't be a bad self-defense knife because it has that kind of little, it has that deep little finger choil, and you could choke up like that too. I mean, I wouldn't hold it like that if I was using it for self-defense, but right here, yeah, or reverse grip. So yeah, but this specific one, you know, model with fucking V-Toku2, I would not recommend using it for self-defense at all. This is pretty much just a cardboard cutter or fucking cutting up some wood or some mail, whatever the fuck, plastic. Yeah, that's all I would use this for. Kind of like my Para 3, you know, something I'll use a Para 3 for. Yeah. And the smoothness of it, it's pretty smooth. It's still new. Like, I can tell when a Spyderco is new just because of how the lock back, you know, how it feels and shit. And if you try to Spidey flick it, I have the pivot down pretty tight, so I can kind of Spidey flick it if I flick my wrist a little. There you go, like that. But when it was even more new, I could barely flick it out like that, even flicking my wrist. So yeah, I could tell the dude didn't use it at all, but after breaking it in a little bit, yeah, it's really smooth. If you do a little thumb roll like that, you know. And I can't remember, I think I took this apart and greased, you know, put some white lithium grease and a little bit of gun oil on it, so just to smoothen it up a little bit. I can't remember exactly what the fuck it has in there, but I think it has some bronze washers. I can't really see it. Let me see if I can fucking get my light on it. Just to get a little more light in there. My flashlight, my little fucking O light. I don't know exactly what the fuck is in there. No, I can't remember. I can't even remember if I took it apart or not. I take so many of my blades apart and put them back together when they're new. Some blades, like my Link, I haven't even seen under the hood with this shit, and it's like 7 months old, so soon I'm going to be taking this apart. I took off the pocket clip once, though, to just put some Loctite on it, but yeah. I need to take that apart and lube it up and Loctite it. The variants of this, like I said, they have a ZDP 189. I think it has a G10 or just regular FRN, the British Racing Green version. And another thing I forgot to mention, the dude, he must have put a Para 3 or PM2 pocket clip on this because it's supposed to have a pocket clip like that with a fucking hole through it, because this, obviously it doesn't have a lanyard hole, but if you're carrying it tip down, right side, you can actually access the pivot screw through that little hole. But on this, it actually has a fucking lanyard hole, and it has, you know, a purpose for that too. If it had a hole and you were carrying tip down, I'm assuming you'd be able to access the pivot screw if you didn't want to take off the pocket clip. But it has a fucking lanyard hole, so if you had a clip like that on this one and you had a lanyard through there, you would be able to, you know, feed it through the pocket clip. So that's something the dude didn't mention. And a little disappointment, the fucking screw that he had on here, it was like stripped and shit. So I was like, oh, what the fuck? I'm gonna have to, you know, I tried to take off the pocket clip and I was able to get it off, but I noticed the fucking pocket clip screw was stripped, so I just took it off. So yeah, right now it just has 2 screws, and I'm probably gonna try to find another one to throw on there, but it really hasn't fucking bothered me. So yeah. And they do have a VG10, a regular VG10 version that's black, and then they have a XL version, the straight spine. In the regular, you know, this size, the stretch 2, they have a straight spine version and a, you know, curved spine. And then in the XL, I think it's only the straight spine. And then they have like a, you know, this size stretch 2 FRN. I think it's like white FRN ivory or some shit, but I think that one just has VG10. So yeah, they have a couple different versions of this, and they came out with a K390 version, but it's just not the XL version. It's just the stretch tube, but it's a straight spine. If they had a K390 and the fucking curved spine, I might want to get that one because I just like the look of it. But I mean, I already have a K390 Spyderco, so I just said fuck it, I'm good on that. So yeah, a couple different variants. And the price I paid for it, obviously I paid a little more because I got it from, someone who already fucking bought it when it came out and just saved it to sell it for, later and shit, whatever. Maybe they had like 4 of them. But if I bought it for the original price, I would say yeah, it's worth it. And even the 120, paying a little extra, I would say it's worth it too. So yeah, it's a great knife, awesome knife, and that's my review. My Spyderco Stretch 2 and V-Toku 2. All right, later.